Welcome back to another one. Today I'm reviewing Ready Player One, Steven Spielberg's latest creation, and this one takes place in the future, very futuristic world set in 2045, where humans spend most of the time in this virtual reality world called the Oasis, because the real life is kind of grim, it's kind of dark, and people live in almost like in these trailer hostels where like they're stacked up on top of each other, and it's just not a pretty future. It's not a pretty future. I would not want to live in that future. Now, the Oasis was created by this programmer named James Holliday. He passed away, and before he passed away, he left 3 keys inside the Oasis, and whoever finds these 3 keys gets control of the Oasis and gets like $1 trillion. So our main character, Wade Watts, is in pursuit of looking for these keys, and he's really obsessed into getting into the mindset of the creator of this virtual world to see where he would put these keys. And also there's this evil company that has all these people that they pay to play the game to try to look for the keys, because they also want control of the Oasis, and also of course they want the $1 trillion. So most people go to the Oasis to escape reality and spend most of their time in the Oasis, kind of like the way people spend a lot of time on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter and all that stuff now in today's reality. That's how it is in the future in this movie, but instead is the Oasis. And when you go to the Oasis, when they show the Oasis, first of all, this movie, the visuals are amazing. Another thing is that even though this movie's in the future, it gives you that nostalgic feeling. It's almost like when I watch Stranger Things, that it takes you back to the 80s where, you know, it kind of reminds you of movies like The Goonies, like It, Star Wars, has all these references. And this movie has all these references as well from pop culture from back in the day. So even though it's set in the future, it's almost like retro futuristic. Also, when the main character finally meets the real people that he's been interacting with in the Oasis in the real world, it gets really interesting because they form this team called the High Five. When he finally meets them in real life, they have this chemistry going on that's really interesting, really entertaining to watch, and I wish they would have met up a little bit earlier. Even though the main characters are video game characters in the Oasis, they feel so real. There's this one scene that they kind of go into a Stephen King movie. I can't say too much, there's a spoiler-free review, but the video game characters in this real world of a Stephen King movie, they look so real in that world that that's one of the scenes that blew my mind. It made me realize how real these video game characters look because they fit in the real world of the Stephen King movie. Now let's talk about the things that kind of bothered me about this movie. For me, it took a while to get going. In the beginning of the movie, there's this long voiceover sequence where the main character is explaining what the Oasis is, what the rules of the Oasis is, and it just kind of felt drawn out and a lot of video game and virtual reality jargon that I think might have thrown off some people. And I feel like that could have been cut down or done a different way. What I mean by that is maybe instead of having a voiceover, maybe if Wade Watts would have been talking to a friend, maybe somebody new to the Oasis, maybe one of the younger characters explaining what the Oasis is, that might have been a little bit better, more interesting, instead of this long voiceover that kind of just kept going. And I think if the main character would have had somebody to kind of bounce off of in the real world and from the beginning of the movie, maybe like a best friend in the real world, you would have gotten to know a little bit more about him, because I feel like the character in the real world and his video game character, which his name is Parzival, for some reason they felt different. They almost didn't feel like the same character, the same person. It felt like when they went back to him in the real world, it felt like he was somebody totally different than he was in the video game world. So I think maybe if he had a friend, an ally in the real world, we would have gotten to know more of his personality, more of who this character was, and that way we would have cared more about this character. And also on the same note, I feel like it took too long for these characters to meet up in the real world, because once they met up in the real world, they were really fun to watch, really entertaining to watch. They're all very different. There's one that's like 11 years old that cracks me up, and seeing them interact, I really enjoyed that part of it. So I wish that would have came earlier in the movie and really set the tone for the rest of the movie. So overall, this is a very entertaining movie. I wish I would have watched it in 3D or in IMAX, because just some of the scenery, some of the visuals in this movie are just amazing, jaw-dropping. There's this one scene where they're kind of like racing through New York, going into Queens, taking the Queens Bridge, And even though it's a virtual reality world, parts of it felt so real because, I mean, I live in New York, I live in Queens, And if it was a video game that felt realistic, and then you had Kong trying to chase down the cars, trying to take down the cars, and you had King Kong trying to smash everything, and it was like amazing. It was just I couldn't believe what I was watching. It was that impressive. So the movie does have a lot of good points to it, a lot of impressive points to it, and I do recommend the movie. Now, like I said, the movie does have its flaws, and I feel like this could have been a really great movie if certain things could have been adjusted here and there. But do I recommend it? Yes, I do. So out of 5 stars, I'm giving this movie a solid 4. Very entertaining, definitely worth your money, and Spielberg comes up with another good one. You could definitely tell this is a Spielberg movie because the way he uses music, his storytelling, just he has his stamp all over this movie. And it's like one of the movies they would have made in the 80s if they had the CG technology that we have now. So that's it for today's episode, guys. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. And please press that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.